Okay, hi everyone. We're gonna be starting soon. Yes. Apa khabar? Salam bertemu kembali. My name is Arida Raza and I will be your moderator today. I will be speaking in dual language to accommodate for the presentation. For your information, this is the third series of the webinar session brought to you by Malaysia Productivity Corporations dealing with construction permits. So before that, standard procedure, do you know what is dealing with construction permit? In Doing Business 2020, Report Malaysia is ranked number 12 with 81.50 points among 190 global economies in the world. 10 indicators were used to estimate the ease of doing business in all the economies, and so happened that Malaysia is the ranking DCP number 2 in the world right now. DCP tracks the efficiency of the construction permitting system. It measures numbers of procedures, total time taken to complete all procedures, costs imposed by the authority and technical agencies to build warehouse. The construction license and permit depositing notification to start work and requesting and receiving all necessary inspection prior to utility connections. Another area which is measured by DCP is Building Quality Control Index, which evaluates the quality building regulations, the strength of quality control and safety mechanism, liability and insurance regimes, and professional certification requirement. All right, now we move on to the session today. Construction industry is the largest economic driver in Malaysia. Therefore, there is substantial interest in making the bureaucracy and procedural components in obtaining approval and related construction works more effective and efficient. So a lot of the system in the local government are currently now using online system. We are lucky today to have Miss Puan Punita Nok Naidu, who will be delivering her topic on stepping up of online platform for construction permit. So we'll be talking about online platforms and the potential future of online platforms in the construction permit. Okay, Ms. Punita will be sharing her research on current process, challenges, and exploring the possibility of integrated online system that allows a single door for all relevant agencies, which incorporates online submission, processing of applications, as well as transmission and tracking of the application results for ultimate reform of the sector. The vision is eventually to develop and implement an online system that will truly beneficial to both stakeholders and applicant and regulators. That's a little bit about Puan Punita's talk. But before we proceed further, tak kenal maka tak cinta. So we have to cinta first. We have to get to know the speaker first. So Puan Punita, she's have a very long 20 years working experience in both private and public sector. Since August 2018, she has been an independent consultant at national and international level. Wow, dia banyak give talk at international. She has been engaged by government, private sector, and international funders. Ms. Punita has served IWK, Indah Water Consortium, in various capacity for more than 8 years. And she also has served National Water Service Commission, SPAN, from 2008 until 2018, 10 years. He was involved in the various functions in SPAN, ranging from formation of policies and strategies, planning and implementation of action plan, industry restructuring activities, tariff setting and pricing mechanism, drafting of regulation and technical specification, development benchmarking mechanism, and re-engineering of business process to increase effectiveness and efficiencies. So I was lucky, we both had the opportunity to work together on the risk base for the BKL before, but today we have her speaking on the studies or research on the online platform. How are you, Ms. Punita?
Fine, thank you, Rida. Thanks for inviting me to give this talk.
Yeah, long time no see. How's everything at home?
A very glorious introduction about me. Thanks a lot.
Of course, for your 20 years of experience in IWK and SPAN, and now in your private practice, doing a lot of things, you must be well knowledgeable and very eager to share today.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Okay, without further ado, I'll pass it to you to start off your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Rida. Thanks, thank you very much. Just before I start the presentation, just would like to let all of you know, because doing webinar first time for me actually, and I do hope that there's any glitches. For example, if you can hear my puppy barking, please excuse me, I'm sorry for that. And I'll try to make sure that I will deliver this webinar as smoothly as possible. So, okay, let's go into the presentation. The title of my webinar session today is Stepping Up of Online Platform for Construction Permits. And this particular talk will be more in the context of exploratory, because I'm not an expert here. There's many people who are involved in these particular practices of getting necessary approval for construction permits, and there's a lot of challenges they have faced. For some, it's pretty smooth. For some, there are issues. So let us learn and see how we can actually make this particular sector in terms of the applications better. The webinar, this particular session has been broke into 4 parts. What is the planned route? What is being put in place right now? How that is actually getting on the ground? What are the challenges so that we can understand better the gaps, and then we can actually plan to move forward. So these are the 4 contexts that I'll be sharing with you today. Again, as I said, it's not going to be a lecture. I'm a student just like everyone else here. So during this course of the study, I've learned a few issues or improvement that can be put in place. So probably in this particular webinar session, we can actually learn and gain a lot more insight and content on one-stop centers approval processes, as well as the other agencies' approval procedures that has been put in place. This is something that I'm very sure everyone is very familiar of. That means the principal submitting persons or submitting persons, approving agencies, not only local authorities, but every other technical agencies that are involved. This is something that everyone very familiar of. This particular process has been in place for many years, and a lot of improvement has been put in place. When I say a lot of improvement, it's not just on the procedures itself, but in terms of the forms, the content of the forms, involvement of agencies at various levels, and the activity itself when come to these procedures that has been put in place. So there are many improvement has been done, I guess, the past 12 or 15 years.
Miss Punita,
Yeah. Yeah.
Previously, the old system was only tackling the initial part, right? Only submissions only, right?
Yes. Yes.
Before the
only
OSC 3.0. Yeah.
Yes. So OSC 3.0 Plus is actually the latest version that has been put in place for the development plan approval stages. So a lot of diagrams that you'll be seeing later is only focusing on P2. For the purpose of this webinar, there's no point going into every single detail, because what are the challenges faced in second process are similar challenges faced in every other processes. So, okay, now let me go into the online part of it. This particular OSC processes, before it goes into 3.0, initially it started on a manual basis. When applicants submit manually all the documents to One-Stop Center, One-Stop Center send these documents to the technical agencies. Technical agencies provide their feedback to One-Stop Center, and then One-Stop Center coordinated the responses, and they will forward it to the applicant. It was working fairly well. Putting aside the effectiveness and efficiency issues or other concerns that normally applicants have in the industry, I put aside that. That's a talk for another day. But the route used for manual OSC process pretty much has been established. It was working relatively well. Because of that, when online modality came on board, that means instead of manually an application being submitted, now moving on from manual process, which is working fine, as how you can see in this particular framework here. From that manual framework, online framework has been put in place. This is a very simple diagram that I can that I came up with to show how every level of the process, like process 2, process 3, process 4, typically looks like in OSC 3.0 online framework, because it has been designed based on the manual process, where the developers submit to OSC, the agencies comes in and then assess the application, the relevant scope of the application, gives the clearance, to OSC, issue the letter of clearance to OSC, and OSC forwards it to the developer. And that yellow box repeats until the application gets approved. The moment it gets approved, okay, let me show you. The moment it gets approved, then the developer is expected to submit a manual application to OSC to get it endorsed. So the black line here showing the manual part of it, the purple line is showing the online part of it. Because they have transmitted the manual model into the online. But what actually happened on the ground when the online framework came on board? Every agency began to create their own online system. I'm just using TNB and Ais Selangor as an example. It's not just 2 agencies, there are many agencies. For any application, at least there'll be 6 to 7 agencies involved. There are many agencies involved in approval. It's just that I'm just using these 2 agencies for the namesake. So nothing against these agencies or targeting these agencies, just for a namesake. So beside the developer submitting online to one-stop center, and then these agencies giving that necessary clearance, developers are also expected to submit directly to these agencies because the agencies themselves has an online system. So this is what's going on the ground. And once the clearance is given, similar to how it was for local authority, as you have seen here, once this clearance is given, and then there's a manual part of it. Similarly here, once clearance is given, the developer have to submit the manual document to one-stop center and as well as to the agencies in order to get clearance. So every agencies have actually built up their own online system and they have their own procedures that need to be fulfilled. So the question is why? What is the difference between the earlier stage and the online processing stage? In online OSC processing stage, an applicant submits online application to the one-stop center. The agencies gets an alert. The agencies then will access to one-stop center's portal. They will review the application through one-stop center portal and then give the feedback to the portal. Once the feedback is given, one-stop center will actually issue the necessary clearance. What is a significant difference between this and the earlier chart was, in this particular context, none of these agencies keeps the data. In manual process, they had the data in their hand because manually an applicant submits to one-stop center and one-stop center circulates a copy to them. But when it comes to online system, once they get an alert, they will access to one-stop center's online system, give the necessary input, and they don't have anything in hand. So the key thing what's happened here is they don't have the data. That means they have to come up with their own version of online system. That's the first part of it.
Puan Purita, ada satu soalan daripada ni participant. Dia tanya, what is AIS? AIS
Selangor.
AIS Selangor, ya?
Yeah, I'm just using Selangor as an example because I'm in Selangor, so I'm a big follower of Selangor. They supply water to me. So I'm just using Selangor as an example.
All right, okay.
Okay. Great. The key thing here is to understand the nexus between these agencies and the local authority where the one-stop center sits. What I mean by that? All the 6 procedures that has been shown in the beginning of this session, the process 1 to process 6, is actually the process that requires for local authority to go through from development plan up to CCC. So when other agencies actually steps in and giving in their feedback, that is for the purpose of the local authority. But these agencies are governed by their own laws. They have their own laws that they have to fulfill. I have just put the X here, but subsequent to the X, there are necessary rules and regulations that need to be complied. So what happened is, for example, for Indah Water Consortium, they are certifying agency for SPAN, and SPAN is a commission, and SPAN has actually stipulated what an applicant who want to put some sewerage works need to comply. So there's a own set of procedures. So it's not just fulfilling the need of local authority. For example, when it comes to sewerage works, the link is between the planning approval, which is P1. I just put it as P1, but in sewerage industry, they call it PDC1. It's linked towards P2 of the local authority process or OSC process. The P3 is linked to P4 and P5 for the sewerage works is linked to P6. So there are interconnectivity between these agencies and the local authority approvals. But that's not the end of these agencies. These agencies have their own set of requirements and needs that need to be fulfilled. Unfortunately, when online system has been designed, it totally excluded the need of the agencies or external agencies. For example, let us see, is online really an online system? What I mean by that, this is what the manual process looks like. You have seen this again and again. There are process 2, process 3, 4, 5, and 6. There are multiple processes that is involved when it comes to manual process. In that process, there are various activities. For example, in process 2, which is getting the development plan approved, there's an activity for lodgement, processing, feedback, approval, and payment. This activity, these 5 layers of activity, is after I simplify it. That this entire activity happens despite whether it's being manual or online. But when online system came on board, not every activity has been made online, only few of it. For example, the lodgement has been made online, but processing is still manual. Feedback has been made online, approval is still manual, and the payment is still manual. That is for process 2 of local authority. Similarly, for every process, what you can see is some of the activity within that process has been made online, the rest has been retained as manual. And this is not only exclusively for local authority. If you look at, for example, when I've collected information from the PSPs and SPs in the industry, we had a short session sometime in July. What you can see here is, even for Indah Water, there are many activities that is going on, but only a couple of it has been made online. So there are various challenges these agencies face in order to ensure that end-to-end services are being provided online. And we must remember, these are only from the agency's perspective. And if you have an applicant, the applicant have to deal, one single applicant have to deal with multiple agencies. I'm only showing 3 as an example. An applicant have to deal with multiple agencies. And for one agency, the processing will be manual. For example, the payment will be manual. For another agency, the payment will be online with an option. And for some agency, it's mandatorily must be paid online. So for every single agency, they have to deal with them differently to fulfill how they have designed their online system. Okay. I move on. Reda?
Yes, okay.
Okay. So it is essential that we need to understand what is going on in the industry, why this is happening. So first and foremost, every single approving agencies or the relevant regulators involved or the relevant ministries need to acknowledge and accept. Fundamentally, this is not something very simple, because when we use a very simple terminology to describe the entire activity, we call lodgement, okay, for example here, we call the act of lodgement, processing, providing approval or feedback and payment is submission. We use a very simple term, it's online submission. And then we expect everything is being done online, but that's not the reality. So we have to acknowledge, fundamentally, the processes are very, very complex and integrate. There's no quick fix. The moment we want a quick fix, then we will end up with, is online really online situation? And whether that is really giving the anticipated outcome for the industry. Second, we have to understand the variables. What are the variables going on in this industry? There are various approving agencies, and every agencies have their own roles and responsibilities that must be acknowledged and built into the system. And every agency codependent or intersect, their responsibility and their needs intersects between each other. For example, the local authority will not give the final clearance of certain processes unless the relevant technical agencies provide their recommendations. because there is no point giving final clearance to a building when the building do not have water supply, do not have power supply, do not have an access road. So there are actually significant codependence between these agencies. And it's not only on local authority side, even for an agency. What's the point of having a sewage plan, but the property cannot be occupied because of something else? So everyone is actually interdependent. And different multi-layered procedures for every agencies must be acknowledged. For example, we have seen just now, for local authority, at least they have 6 boxes. Indawater has 5, PNB has 4. Water companies has, I think easily about 12 or 13. So various agencies have various multi-layered procedures that need to be recognized, and the management methodology processes of that processes, which is done online, which is done manually, why. So all those things must be understood. Third component that we need to look at is reduce the traffic. What I mean by reducing the traffic, rather than an applicant going into multiple agencies to put in their applications to clear, and all these agencies are not synchronized as of yet. I wouldn't say in a very negative tone, but more like it's a building block. We started with manual, then we went to dual working condition, manual and online. Now I'm talking about moving totally online. So I do not want this to be seen in a negative concept, as if whatever being put in place is not good, but whatever being put in place, there are things that we can learn and move forward. So with an applicant coming in through one single window, this traffic can be reduced. That means there is no need for them to look into multiple online system based on the agencies that they have developed it.
Next, so from your experience, Ms. Punita, from your experience, like dealing, because you were in SPAN and IWK, so the system in PBT is different from the system in technical agencies?
Yes, the systems is different. The requirements are different. What they want is different, because local authority want focus on certain scope. Every technical agency have their own scope. So everyone will be asking for something unique, and their system will definitely be different.
So basically the two parties is always asking also different type of requirements between the technical agencies and also the government, local government.
Yes, the requirements are different as well. So what is expected to be submitted, for example, when it comes to technical agencies, they be expecting structural drawing or process drawings and whatnot, but local authority expecting layout plans. Only when it comes to the building plans, then they go into the detailed part in terms of structure and whatnot. So every agency have their own requirement. For example, just now I was just about to say about payment. For example, local authority, payment is upon approval, but like Indawater, the SPAN, when SPAN have what they call as planning, design and construction rules, the charges, the payment is based on processing, whether it's approved or not, it doesn't matter, but there's an act of processing, there's a cost. So even that is different. So every agency have very different ways of managing it. It doesn't mean that every agency need to synchronize, because every agency have their own roles to play and they have own basis why they're doing things in certain way. But it doesn't mean they cannot come under one roof. That means it doesn't mean they cannot have a symbiotic collaboration where an online system that serves everyone's need, not one single agency. It's not that it cannot be done. It can be done. But is it going to be quick and easy? No. So it's like something that we need to work on, because we already have extensive experience improving one-stop center manual processes. It has moved to partial online. Even agencies have built up some online system at their end. So all these are knowledge, and this knowledge can be used to come together and establish an integrated online platform.
Ada satu soalan ni Ms. Punita from Muhammad Firdaus bin Halim. I think he's from Majlis Pembadaran Hang Tuah Jaya. Kenapa requirement agensi berbeza sedangkan ketua pengarah agensi masing-masing telah bersetuju dengan kaedah requirement OSC?
But what requirement is that requirement that Encik Firdaus is mentioning. What requirement is that?
I mean, I think in terms of submission lah, because I think in OSC 3.0 was clear that there are some sets of requirement that we have to submit, but when it comes to the online system, it has a lot of other requirements between the agencies and the local government.
You see, I think it goes back to this particular slide, right? Okay, actually saya tak pasti whether saya boleh jawab soalan Encik Firdaus without knowing the detailed context, but saya cuba explain dekat sini. Bila local authority, they call for all the agencies to come for a meeting, they only looking at this, ya, kotak biru. Mereka tak fikir pasal kotak hijau, kotak orange, kotak merah, kotak purple, dia tak tengok. Dia hanya think about kotak biru because this is their scope, right? And then for this particular P2 process, for example, dekat sini saya hanya letak TNB dan Indah Water. So I only will quote these two agencies. For example, dekat proses P2 ni, dia perlu pandangan berhubung dengan pembentungan dan dia perlu pandangan berhubung dengan power supply. So only that requirement that local authority needs on pembentungan and power supply could have been standardized. But is that what pembentungan needs to fulfill pembentungan law? Atau power supply need to fulfill Electricity Supply Act? You get what I mean? Dia tak sama, you know. So dia hanya yang bab ni sahaja dia can synchronize. Maksudnya local authority can actually call all this agency and say, for me to give development plan approval atau KM, pembentungan must give this maklumat. I need only this from pembentungan. I only need this from PNB. I only need this from syarikat air Melaka. That's about it. Tapi all the syarikat or all these agencies are reporting to their own commissions or own regulatory bodies that requires other things yang mereka still kena fulfill. Itu yang end up bila online being put in place, every authority kata, okay, fine, I will go into your portal. Maksud, contohnya, Indah Water akan masuk portal local authority bila dia dapat alert untuk do the processing for local authority. Tapi untuk dia punya own need, submission still must be made. So dia macam it doesn't solve everybody's problem. Dia hanya solve one agency punya problem. Dan bila dia, and ini kan kita masuk lagi talking from perspective of agency. So imagine from perspective of applicant. Kalau among agencies they are unable to synchronize or standardize, imagine the perspective of applicant, how it would be. How many agencies and they have to deal with. I hope that could have given some clarity for the Encik Firdaus.
So from your explanation, it's quite clear that the online system, based on what we are submitting, the consultant is submitting, is based on a main online system which is catered tailor-made for local government lah. But for the sub technical agencies too, is actually just to comply with the main system lah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So I mean, maybe I'm simplifying the entire situation. Maybe I didn't answer fully what Encik Firdaus wants, but maybe if later in the end he can give me the actual situation, I can respond better. But at the same time, it could be a total different issue that we left unexplored. Maybe I didn't find that in part of my study.
All right. Okay. Proceed.
Okay, let me go here. Okay, I think I've mentioned about the symbiotic collaboration, where coming up with an online system that serves everyone's need. When I talk about everyone, bukan saja local authority and technical agencies, but juga applicants. So everybody's interest has been kept, everyone's requirement has been put in place, serving the agency's need as well, not just others, and then put up. That is a symbiotic collaboration. And of course, another thing is optimization of infrastructure, skills and resources, as well as cost, to share the burden. A lot of times, sometimes the agencies would like to do an end-to-end solution, but it's not easy. It's pretty expensive. They need to change physical infrastructure. They have to change the softwares. They have to bring in people who know how to manage the softwares. they have to do training, so they had a cost. So imagine by having a symbiotic collaboration, all these things can be optimized because it is shared by agencies. Multiple agencies. Saya rasa dekat-dekat ada 10 agencies yang actually can share. Acknowledge the needs and expectation of all stakeholders. Rights of data ownership and control. Like what happened when come to the current OSC 3.0 online system when others are accessing is, they are accessing to a portal and a data platform that is sitting dengan OSC, and then they are putting up their feedback and they are walking out from it. So when they walk out, they literally walk out with nothing. They don't own the data, they don't control the data, they don't have access or use of the data. They have nothing. That means they create their own channel. Okay, of course it becomes a nuisance, so they create an own channel. So with this channel, they can control and own the data. So this is what's happening, one of the components. Therefore, when we come up with a system yang integrated, rights of data ownership and control must be clearly defined. Uninterrupted access and use of data must be allowed. That means bukan macam TNB punya data somebody else access. Tapi what are the data can be shared and what are the data need not be shared. Itu semua kita kena actually identify. And high confidence level and reliable safety and security features must be put in place. Kadang-kadang this is another challenge. For some agencies, some of the information are actually have significant security measures they put in place supaya data tak breach. So the system that they put in place kena ada all these elements. And enforceability. Does the system yang kita design online is actually enforceable or not based on the laws that is existingly being used? Sepemahaman saya, what is being done online is more kepada convenience untuk mempermudahkan someone. In this case, the agency, ya, bukan applicant, untuk mempermudahkan agency. Tapi saya rasa ini saya punya andaian. Dia tak boleh di-enforce. Pasal dia tak boleh di-enforce, that's why bila dia decide untuk approve, dia suruh submit manual juga. Still have to submit manual application because current laws doesn't allow or do not have sufficient enforceability powers when it comes to electronic documents. Effective consultation. Based on my study, the applicant community feel they have been totally left out from the design and development of any online system. Jadi ini bukan one-stop center saja, any online system. Sama ada power supply or sewerage or water, everyone, applicant community has been left out. So when applicant community has been left out, a system has been designed is only useful for the designer, not for the applicant. Measuring true value to avoid counterproductive initiative. As long as this particular online system yang has a lot of cost, a lot of time has been spent being put in place, tapi kalau dia tak bring productivity or efficiency, that means it's counterproductive to even do these initiatives. Kadang-kadang dengan andaian this is an online system, sebab dia tak ada proper cost benefit analysis, dia diandaikan because it's online, it's faster, it's better. But we have to find a way to measure the true value of that outcome. The second last will be on utilizing all features of online system. Contohnya, right? Contohnya Microsoft Excel. How many of us know all the features of Microsoft Excel and using it? Similarly, in this online system, what I found out was there are plenty of features, but people do not know how to use these features. So end up, walaupun application comes in online, they will print it on a paper and do the processing. They do the commands or approval, everything they do manual before loading it up again. I remember one of these industry players that I have interviewed said that they found there's an age gap. Generally, those who less than 40 years old tend to be a bit more alert and fast in learning about online system. Yang people who hit 40 and above tend to be not very quick in learning all these features. And right now, it's more like people are learning by experience. Dia tak ada specific approach or strategic approach in teaching them. The design of a system must be based on good governance and transparency. Maksudnya, the stakeholders should be able to access. Dia kena open loop system. That's the best way to measure the performance. Bila stakeholder can access the system and dia tahu dekat mana application dia is currently at and how far is it to go before he get his clearance. So the easiest way to make it is make it an open loop system. Okay. It's very easy for me to say all these things, but what I notice is every agencies this giving this approval is not the only purpose why an agency exists. Local authority, SPAN, Suruhanjaya Tenaga, JKR, JPS, all these agencies sebenarnya dia ada their own functions and role why they even exist. That means there need to be a drive from the government to make it a national agenda to drive this integrated online platform. And part of the national agenda is committing to give end-to-end solution. Bukan separuh, end-to-end solution. It may take 3 years, it may take 5 years. We need to have a neutral independent agency yang take up this driver role, and this agency must have the technical capabilities and resources. Dan dia kena objektif, agency ni kena objektif. It's very difficult to expect satu agency yang ada vested interest to do something for everyone else. It doesn't make sense. And this agency must be supported by other agencies yang boleh bridge the gap of what the stakeholder punya interests are. Bukan sekadar from the government angle, but also from the industry players, from the developers, consultants, architects, and whatnot. Oh, sorry. This integrated system must be made.
Who do you think, Ms. Punita, would be the best driver to lead this? I mean, it's supposed to be KPKT, kan?
Ini is what I was thinking. It's not like really, you put me in a very difficult position, Rita, but I tend to think an agency macam Mampu, who have the, who has been established to drive, what is that? Digital movement of this country. So these are the agencies that have been put in place to drive to drive the country or the government moving towards online platforms.
Yeah.
So I would rather think that the driver should be Mampu, and the supporting agency, I still think it should be MPC. Bukan sebab MPC panggil saya for this webinar, but more because of MPC is the agency that's supposed to ensure productivity and efficiency.
So not really the stakeholder lah that is involved, because if the stakeholder that is involved is quite be biased and is they are not independent in terms of making the judgment of the system, right?
Yeah, if it's direct stakeholders like people who are involved, contohnya macam all these agencies yang currently giving approvals, definitely it's kind of difficult for them to do for everybody. Kalau saya in their shoes also, with other key functions I have that I need to deliver, why I would spend my time to do something for the entire government machinery. So that's the reason I thought the driver should always be somebody who's pretty objective, who's independent out of this whoever sitting in this group. Anyway,
it's a chicken and egg situation lah, Punita, right?
I'm not sure, like chicken and egg in what sense is that?
Because if you put the related stakeholder, they know the technical, but they are not neutral. But if you have a neutral party, they don't understand what is needed in the system. So it's like sort of like a chicken and egg situation, yeah.
Yes, that's where the this part where I mentioned that need to be supported by an agency that can coordinate and bring all the stakeholders together under a single umbrella. So this is where the other agencies come on board. That means dia bukan macam ada satu agency is given this mandate and then they just go quietly sit in a corner and then produce an integrated platform. I can bet that it will never be an integrated platform. It's designed that way. It must
Yep.
be must be based on feedback given by all the approving agencies and the industry players. So selagi that approach is not taken, kita akan end up like what gali lubang tutup lubang category. Kita gali
Yes,
satu lubang
correct.
and then we tutup satu lubang, and then for that we need to gali another lubang. That's the same thing will happen. And actually we don't notice it. It's not intentionally, I think this has been done, but it didn't occur when it has been developed. So pada saya, yes, the structure should be based on proper engagement with all the agencies. Okay, and this system should be scalable and should be flexible. Should be scalable and flexible. Why I say scalable and flexible? Kalau kita nak cakap, kita nak all the 10-15 agency dengan semua 100 over local authorities in Malaysia to come together at the same time, saya rasa 2030 pun tak boleh. The wawasan yang second wawasan by MITIO sudah habis already, cannot. Previous Ministry of Economy. So it must be scalable in a stage that we can make it a tier. Some of the local authorities and some of the agency maybe will sit in tier 1, second tier, and third tier, and slowly bring people in. Even slowly bring in various procedures in. Maybe start off dengan one procedure and then introduce second procedure, third procedure in. So it must be scalable and it must be flexible. Dia tak boleh satu hari bangun pagi semua siap and ready for everyone to do, baru nak launch, susah. And then it must incorporate solution or any solution that will reduce face-to-face interaction. And one key thing I can think of is GIS, because no matter what, everything made online still kena pergi local authorities look at their local plan, structure plan. Then it still is not a proper online system. So we have to make sure that the GIS and the base maps are made available in this system. There must be an ability to screen some prerequisite compliance requirements by the agencies. For example, the applications should never be rejected based on these preliminary and basic prerequisites. The system should be able to do that job. That means whoever's sitting and looking at this application actually have a certain amount of knowledge or require certain amount of knowledge to do the second layer processing. Yang basic processing tu sistem buat. And last but not least, yang paling penting pada saya adalah using this data, which will be like gigantic amount of information sitting under one umbrella for data analytics. In designing sustainable development, ini paling penting. Because right now, the data is sitting everywhere. That's number one. How the data is being maintained and managed, that's another thing. Maintain and manage is another thing. So by having it sit under one single umbrella, you know that there are people with right resources and skill managing that data, and the data can be used. Even macam situation MCO macam ni, what can be done? How the development had been laid out, what we can use this information to actually help public healthcare sector. So all those things can be done.
So Amin, ada satu soalan ni, Ms. Punita, daripada Carvis Wong, relating to your just now, the integrated system tu. Is our government ready for e-service online processing?
Is
government ready tak for e-service online processing? Sebab I rasa it cannot be that complex, because banking system has done it, and other systems are much more complex that deals with payment and also multiple processes.
Okay. The thing is, I find the issue here is not about the software or IT infrastructure. I think our country has amazing IT infrastructure. A lot of things has been done in terms of software, like what you say on banking and all those things. Tapi when it comes to this particular component is getting various ministries, various agencies to come together. That will be the challenge in making this happen. But dia bukan satu kementerian and then kerja jalan. Dia multiple. And it's not fulfilling one law. Every agency ada dia punya own law why they're doing that. On top of that, kena link dengan Electronic Evidence Act or whatever other related digital acts. So that's where the challenge will be. That's why earlier I said it must be a national agenda. Kalau government nak and they mandate, they give some an agency dekat di bawah Jabatan Perdana Menteri to oversee this. Yes, I think it can happen. I mean, you see, right? Kita punya passport. From last time bila kita submit, I don't know. I mean, I'm old enough to say that long time ago when once dah submit everything kena pergi pejabat, kena tunggu 4-5 hari, then kena pergi collect. And now within 2 hours, I submit everything online and then I go and collect it. So if that can be done, and that one we're talking about security, hantar people keluar, allowing people to go out of the country, you know, kan yang ni tak boleh. Can, but need to get all these ministries to work together.
Okay.
Participative and collaborative, I won't cover this because I have mentioned that earlier. But the legal framework, there is an important need to establish a proper institutional and regulatory framework that all the approving agencies need to have. So agencies kena kaji. Can I or can I not? What is stopping me? So what I can do? Do I need to amend the act, or the act is sufficient? I have to do something else. So yang ni kena this framework, every agency kena masing-masing kena look at, because right now it's not done, not by anybody. And it not only complies kepada regulatory requirement of the agencies. Just now I have said this. It also must comply kepada electronic and digital evidence act that is currently being used in the country. Sebab sekarang online system, as I mentioned earlier, it's based on convenience. Oh, daripada hantar paper and people driving kepada pejabat, parking, naik tangga, tunggu 5-10-20 minit and then put in submission. No, I just duduk dekat my meja and then I submit online. Yeah, it's just convenient, yeah. But whether it complies to the law, can it be used in the court if there is a problem? So that is something that really need to be looked at. And if the laws need to be amended, it should be amended. I mean, let's not use law as an excuse of not moving forward. If the law is the one stopping us from moving forward, I think the law should be amended. Okay.
From your experience, ada tak yang law yang actually, I mean, there is a barrier to this besides online submission, not in the UBBL lah?
Currently, I think none of the agencies have built in this online submission component, you know, into their laws. I don't think that, none of their okay, dia macam ni. Okay, more like this. None of them have designed their online system fulfilling what are the needs of Electronic or Digital Evidence Act. I'm not sure what they exactly call it, whether Electronic Evidence Act or Digital Evidence Act, but I know that the online system has not been designed based on that. If it's designed based on that, approvals can come out online. The moment kita tengok approvals come out manual, that is a question mark. Why it's coming out manual?
Do you think this is a question from Ping Fuan Lee? Would you associate all this lack of integration because of funding to establish a committee for harmonization of IT infrastructure across multiple agencies, ministries, and departments? Because some BBT use different system, some BBT use different system, kan? But I understand dulu KPKT ada this one particular online system yang actually they went to all the other all the PBT to actually synergize the system. Is it an issue because of the funding for the harmonization?
I think it's more got to do bila you see different local authorities ada different different financial resources, you know. Like let's say the system that had been put in place is going to be very expensive to maintain. Of course, agencies yang or agencies or local authorities yang tak mampu, dia tak boleh guna that particular system. End up dia kena create system dia sendiri lah. So it could be an issue. But when we talk about integrated online system, now we are going into the part of cost-benefit analysis and feasibility. How to make it happen? Because pada saya, when this is being done, there can be a cost sharing mode. It can be even based on application flow. The more application comes, people who, what more application comes in, or per application rates are being charged a percentage from the fees based on application. Jadi orang yang guna kurang, dia bayar kurang. Agensi yang guna kurang, bayar kurang. Agensi yang guna lebih, bayar lebih. I think all those things can be worked out. But what we should see here is this something that we want? If this is something that we want, then we should explore it. And every problem, I believe, is not even as difficult as COVID yang tanpa DNA. It can be resolved. This is definitely a problem that we can resolve. So I don't quite see that is going to be an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Tapi for this COVID ni, a lot of PBT pun nobody actually anticipated for the online system to actually can cater for this pandemic, right?
Yes, yes. I think when it comes to specifically on this particular, this one I would rather, let's say we don't even talk about MCO. We talk about work from home. I don't think any of the online system has been catered for people to work from home. It has been not designed for that purpose. So kalau it's designed, that's not something that has been looked at. But of course, then again, when we look, this is where I guess decision need to be made by when they look at look at an integrated platform. When we look at an integrated platform, then kita kena tengok sama ada how essential is this yang memerlukan infrastructure be prepared so people can work from home.
That's correct lah, because currently the online system that is designed is actually to work in collaboration in the office, not at home.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's a little bit difficult in terms of work during this MCO kan, for
Yes.
the majlis kan. Okay.
Okay.
All right, proceed.
This is eventually I envision an online system or an integrated system, something like this, a system that has one single window for OSC and every agency. Real one single window, bukan yang acah-acah depan OSC dihantar, belakang dihantar lagi agensi, tak. One single window, and it functions like a hybrid co-working space. Just that this co-work space is in a virtual concept, where everyone share the main platform with the limited data. Everyone shares that. But every agency have autonomous control of certain information, and agencies come together to maximize and leverage on data analytics. That is information that has been gathered by all these agencies. And eventually a system that gives end-to-end services, daripada development plan sampai CCC, everything in between is done actually online, and it has a transparent performance monitoring, status tracking by the industry. As I would say something macam how it's being done untuk COVID sekarang. Any one of us yang subscribe kepada Telegram channel Majlis Keselamatan Negara atau CPRC, we get this right all the time. Every day we get this.
Yeah.
Only done by one single person. So kalau us in this construction industry, kita ada multiple agencies, country all work together. Isn't it even better? Because all of us have so many resources that can be pulled up to produce this kind of analytics, simple analytics macam ni. Tapi untuk construction industry, to create sustainable development, I think it's possible. But the thing is how far we want to take this thing up. That is the situation.
Maybe we should give to the Ministry of Health to run the system.
But then output may be different.
To harmonize the system. But I know that even the hospitals also have their own challenge in terms of integrating information between them, kan?
Yes, exactly. No, I believe, right? I don't think the hospitals have an integrated online system. I could be wrong. Maybe someone if somebody here from this particular industry who can share. I believe all this data is actually collected manually. Okay, we don't consider Excel spreadsheet online. Yeah, Excel spreadsheet pun manual. Online is when it's actually everything done via web portals and things like that. Tetapi kan, do we want to be pushed to a situation macam ni in construction industry before we move forward? Right now we are in a position where we have a very clear mind. We are not pressured, we are not under stress, we are not frontliners. We have the capability, kita ada a lot of experience under OIC Online, and many agencies have done their own online system. There's plenty of experience to go around. And we have a lot of industry players who like to participate and give feedback. Even in my short study, I got support from many players in the industry. So we are in a position where we can do preventive tau. Kita jangan buat reactive. Reactive means tiba-tiba World Bank kata you punya bukan online, you have to go full online. So what we're going to do? Come up with something within 6 months? Can that happen? And you think if that happens, do you think that system actually works? So I believe that kita kena design lah kita punya perjalanan. Jangan sampai orang push kita baru kita nak do something about it.
Yep.
Okay. So I think that's the last slide. So with this I end my presentation. I do not know whether I'm within time or too early.
Kita ada banyak masa lagi untuk soal jawab. Ada banyak soalan ni. So for others, if you want to contact Ms. Punita, she already left her phone number and also her email here, and also LinkedIn juga. So we now proceed with the question and answers. Ada soalan daripada Mr. AR David Gui. I think it's quite but I think we go into a little bit deeper. In times like MCO, permohonan rasmi with hard copies cannot be done at majlis or authorities counter. Can all the submission be processed online instead of relying on hard copies for it to be processed? Some of the OAC just check online if the documents are submitted, but processing of drawings are still manually done by the authorities. So if time like MCO submission, all cannot be done since the authorities need hard copies for the office to process the plan. So I mean, macam mana tu, Ms. Punita? I think I heard that some of the authorities they accept for submissions kan, but only for certain particular item kan.
I'm not sure about that, but I do know that some of the there's some circulars has been issued out, right?
Yes.
Saying that the submission is being accepted. Okay, the thing is, actually the question was pretty long. I hope my response actually answers that question. What I would say is, bila kita tengok the submissions, yes, the act of transmitting the submission berlaku. Dia akan masuk ke portal OSC. Tapi once dia masuk portal OSC, agencies akan dapat alert. Tapi that departments in that agencies yang actually do this processing or the pegawai, is it considered essential services? Are they allowed to go kepada pejabat to even do the processing? Sebab as I said, this infrastructure is not designed for people to work from home. So how can happen? Jadi saya rasa dia bukan isu in this particular context. I would say it's not the issue of online application or the issue of construction industry or whatever not. This is the decision that is made by Majlis Keselamatan Negara. What they determine which industry can operate. Then if they decide that these approvals are actually essential, then pegawai kena pergi pejabat lah to do the work, to do the necessary work.
Itulah. It's not looking at the situation now, it's not really essential, but I mean, people want it to be essential. That's what we hope, but it's not necessary. It's not really essential for now, lah. The way the things are actually looking at, right?
I mean, maybe I'm trying to make it very simplistic, but I would rather, I agree with you. I will think that it's not essential because even if you get an approval, you can't go out and do any construction work, right? Except for the limited sectors or categories that has been allowed. So what is the purpose of actually getting that approval?
Funny that you say that, Punita. I actually talked to a few pengarah OAC. They also mentioned the same thing. Even if you get the approval, also you cannot really start doing work, kan? But then again, it's a wasted time because we can do pre-consultation. At the start, and then we can actually do the initial part of the drawings so that we can submit. And by the time it's open MCO, then we can actually proceed to do other things.
Yes, that's the thing. So, but anyway, as I said, I could be simplifying a complex problem, but from what I'm getting in while trapped at home right now is I don't think the infrastructure has been designed for that. Because the infrastructure is not designed for that, that means people have to go and access to these servers or the information from their offices. And if they want to go to the office, is it even recognized? Are they even recognized as essential? Macam banking sector, saya tahu benda tu essential. Tapi yang lain. And so I guess that for that particular thing, only that I can comment. Other than that, it's a bit beyond my knowledge or expertise.
Yeah. So I mean, like if let's say lah, the local government, because local government is different sizes. You said lah, the sizes of application in the DBKL is bigger, but the sizes of submission in maybe some majlis daerah is very small. They get one submission already, they happy. Yes, this month we have submission, yeah. So, but their income also very low, eh. So I mean, what is actually the steps that maybe probably if a majlis wants to start with work from home punya direction for this MCO, what is the best direction? It's a little bit difficult, the question, but maybe you can share some of your opinion lah.
Saya rasa kalau first thing first, right? Diorang kena pastikan that they have enough laptops that they can send around to their pegawai-pegawai yang working. But before they even get into that, because I know my sister works in banking sector, and when this MCO happened, and then they start purchasing hundreds of laptops so that they can give to the staff, so staff can work from home. So similarly, something like that need to happen. But cuma, this particular industry is more complex. Sebab it's not about only pejabat local authority are going out and start doing the work. What about agencies? Sebab dia tie up. Kan earlier kan kita ada tengok dia ada interlink. If we go here, dia interlink. Katakan someone is submitting, are you going to stop someone from submitting P2? Sebab bila dia submit P2, which is for KM, feedback need to be obtained from TM, from Indah Water, from the water companies and whatnot. That means that local authority kena check sama ada all these. Kalau tak, dia akan masuk dekat what is that? It will go into people actually submit online, masuk kepada OSC punya portal, alerts are being sent, tapi pegawai-pegawai in these agencies are not working, so they will not get any response, so it will just sit there. You get what I mean?
Oh yeah.
That's one thing. The second thing is, that's one part of it. Yeah, the second part of it. First, I kata infra within local authority. Second is how now, because you need feedback from other agencies. The third component is, let's say lah, all the agencies are working and then feedback dah dapat, nak keluarkan approval. Approval kena, untuk approval, plan kena submit manual, right? Bila plan submit manual, and then, I mean, imagine lah someone is driving and then masuk roadblock, police stop, dia kata, I nak buat submission dekat local authority. I do not know what that will constitute. Either dia kata okay, valid, atau dia akan cakap nak RM1,000 compound, atau dia kata nak masuk lori bawa. I do not know how that all these things will be interpreted. Jadi pada saya, this is seriously a question yang they have to bring up kepada ministry. To what angle? I think quite unfair kalau local authorities are being pressured on something that really beyond their control at the present moment.
Yeah, I mean like the submissions tu pun there's a lot of requirements kan daripada every single area, from the local authorities requirements to the internal department, from the technical agencies. I basically I pun ada experience juga looking at some of the small majlis, dia punya department kecil. So bila department kecil, requirements dia from they actually local government, they learn from the my experience lah, they learn from the complaints lah. Maknanya bila department tu tak cukup, they will create new requirements. So small PBT will have less requirements, bigger PBT will have more requirements. They have no choice to actually include new requirements within the system kan. Yeah. Tapi macam some of the system, I've actually attended some of the online courses to learn how to do this online platform. So bila I think I attended a few years ago by this ex-KPKT punya vendor lah for online. So dia bila masuk dalam sistem tu, dia actually teach us how to use the system. Tapi dalam sistem tu dia boleh tambah-tambah requirement. Requirement dah set, tapi majlis boleh tambah-tambah lagi requirement.
Okay. So isn't it better to go on integrated system where someone else actually controls? That means nobody can, just because they own the system doesn't mean they can just fill in whatever they want. It is something that is agreed upon, and that means if they want to change something, they have to go to this quote unquote neutral agency, So there is a check and balance.
I quite agree with you lah, because in terms of adding requirements, I know that every majlis have their power under the Local Government Act lah kan. Tapi this procedure of management of change tu, maknanya if you want to add, you have to get a neutral head centralized to actually approve, so that this OSC can be synchronized throughout all the board, kan?
Okay. Yeah.
So ada satu lagi soalan ni from Ping Puan Lee. Is there a possibility of constructing the system in a modular format and proportioning the system cost to each agency based on frequency, volume of use as a percentage of the fees collected from the submission process? Wow.
Actually, that's a very good, it's not really a question, but it's more like a suggestion, but that's a very good suggestion. That's what I had in mind. I mean, there's other part of the study where we put up some recommendation, but what we said was any system can be made modular, right? It's I mean, this kind of softwares can be designed to be done in modular, which I think that's a better way, so that it can, the moment the first module is completed, they can actually roll out, and then slowly they can bring other agencies on board. They can bring various levels of procedures being built in. And I also think at the same time that just because there's an online infrastructure doesn't mean the industry should be impose additional charges, because when things are done properly, online system should give benefit kepada agency. In terms of even filing system dia akan jadi kurang, so they can use that particular area for something else, and then the need for printers, all those things sepatutnya kena kurang. Jadi there's a cost saving. So number two, pada saya, whatever processing fee being imposed now shouldn't increase because of the online system. And number tiga, I actually agree. The payment is apportionment. The maintenance of the system should be apportioned from the processing fee. So what is that apportionment? That is something need to be worked out.
Ini ada satu soalan yang nak sama. Ada satu soalan tapi I tak nak namakan dia lah. I call him anonymous lah.
Okay.
Sebab it's a social question. I agree 150% on online submission and digital document. The biggest hurdle is the old school bosses who do not trust the digital media. So we have to look at the percentage of the people using digital banking and online shopping. There are still people who withdraw money from ATM and take out money to cash deposit machine. So macam, what's your opinion macam ni? It's actually a problem all cross-cutting from all industry lah. How do we actually change the mindset of the the people so that it's cross-cutting, everyone can actually accept this digital? But sekarang pun all the seniors also already accept the use of webinar to learn.
Normally, I think when human being punya this thing is, when you're pushed to a corner, then they will always find a way out in managing things. Tapi okay, before we go to that, right? I did mention national agenda. When something becomes national agenda, it's not about whether the top person in the particular agencies are comfortable or not. The issue of comfort tak ada. Anyway, we only learn when things get uncomfortable. We don't learn anything when we're comfortable. But what I feel is, if a proper research is being done, cost-benefit analysis is being shown, how this particular system can bring benefit. Pada saya, the key benefit is on the analytics as well. Bukan sekadar the easy part, yang maksudnya kalau submission make it easy, and then applicants tak payah datang pejabat, reduce face interaction, reduce the processing time. That is all, yes, standard benefits, but the analytic punya benefits, the cost benefits, all that can be shown. Normally kan, pengalaman saya, sebab my bosses were always older than me, they will actually accept, because you have to understand. You have to understand and respond to their concerns. That is the first part of it. Unlikely people takkan accept. Tapi katakan ada jugalah somebody, no matter what, still not reject. Tapi that's when the national agenda come on board. So it's not really a question of whether you are ready or not. It's like how fast. So kalau everyone is started moving fast and forward and only satu agency tinggal, then I guess when it's a national agenda, then that particular agency kena jawab. That's how government agencies work.
From your experience, Punita, your research lah kan, ada tak country yang actually, you know, I mean, very, it's a hybrid system like you mentioned, the one that integrated system already.
Setahu saya, the one that I know of is Singapore. Singapore, everything go through their building of commissions. So the other agencies memang tak ada dia punya own different route of submission. So everything go through that particular structure. So I would say Singapore could be one of it. But actually, this idea also mooted from concept restaurant China. For those who have gone to Chinese restaurants, if you notice, right, not the high-end one, the normal Chinese restaurants yang banyak stalls. There be a lot of stalls. So the whatever items within that stall, pinggan, mangkuk, sudu, garpu, the makanan belong to the stall owner. Tapi the entire restaurant, normally the IA is controlled by the restaurant owner. So this is what an analogy I can put up for this particular integrated data platform, where yes, there is one big platform, one big restaurant where one person is actually controlling it, but there are sub-platforms where people are coming in. For example, TNB sitting in, India Water, Majari, water companies are all sitting in, right? So they control their own platform within that main platform. And from what I can, it's not exactly the same as what's happening in Singapore, tapi something similar to that. They do have that. But of course, yeah, Singapore, the whole Singapore is, dia bukannya ada 2-3 negeri within satu negara. Yeah, I know that, I understand that. Dia satu, the negara is also the negeri, is also the daerah. So it's all combined into one. But we do have this something that we can figure out how we can do this.
Ada ni apa, Miss Ping Puan ada recommendation. There's also existing digital signature tools with encryption capabilities. Those are already in use in certain agencies by MSC Trustgate or something. So that one also can use in the online system as a tool.
Yes,
Tapi
yes.
going back to the online system, because you mentioned about data analytics. I mean, from your studies lah kan, because there's a lot of influx of data coming in terms of submission of online kan. Whether what do you think? I mean, what are the data possibility used by the local government, not really for actually development, but actually in terms of, you know, the importance of developing and you know the area of the local government. Because I mean, there's a lot of things that, I mean, like the building is submitted, you know that the building is on the way, you know, process and then the numbers of people involved.
That one actually, like when I refer to analytics, right, it goes beyond that, Rida. What I mean is, yeah, that is probably the first layer of analytics, the simple one. More like can give status report, like how just now we saw the COVID chart. Like for this particular district, there are 100 new applications coming on board. And let's say within that 100, 70% is actually mixed development. That means can anticipate a lot of businesses will come in, not just residential or housing kind of development. And then how many is actually slowed down or didn't submit or went quiet, halfway construction went quiet. So those are the beginning part. And then how many get processed. Bila masuk, how many get processed within the level of service, and how many of it, what's the frequency of an application comes in sebelum dia keluar. Katakan dalam proses P2 kan, how many times dia masuk P2 sebelum dia keluar P2. So all those things will give a lot of information to improve technical guidelines, to build up competency of the approvers and also industries, and then to look at how the procedures is currently working. So that's one part of it. Second part of more, I feel like significant component when it comes to data analytics bit of it is right. When a certain type of development coming on board in certain local authority, so now the data is there. How does this impact the environment? Whether the waste management system that has been designed for this particular zones or city, is it sufficient? What are the river conditions? The total maximum daily load that can be expected for that particular river situation. So they go beyond that. It's not just and then how it can be linked up, especially for local authority, they will link up dengan other system dia yang lain, yang they issue like what is that, the cukai tanah and all those things, right? So they can actually link up one thing with the other, and then with that we can do data analytics yang kita boleh link up dengan SDGs, sustainable, relevant, not all SDGs, not all the 17 SDGs, but relevant SDGs. From this, then the local authority or the agency can decide. Contohnya, oh, this particular area, this kind of development dah banyak, so have this kind of impact. So now the requirement for new development coming on board for certain, contohnya lah, I give you, my favorite is always on Pementungan. This particular area, a lot of people are moving in. The kind of development that coming on board, that means high population is moving in. When high population is moving in, a lot of sewage going to be generated, but the river stretch there, is pretty much up to its neck, can't take any more flow. That means for the new development come on board, what are the requirements that can be imposed to reduce the impact on that particular river? So this is how the information can be used. That the information will be valuable. And information yang kita boleh share dengan public. When people ask what is happening, they know why this is being imposed or what is being done. So I'm talking about
funny that you mentioned about big data lah tadi, apa tu, Punita, because we are always looking at the submission of the buildings and so the master planning as the physical only, but we don't plan apa tu, we don't plan it as a social master planning, kan? We don't connect it the social, because in Japan they already starting to do the driverless city, Toyota driverless city, all those combining physical master planning, social master planning, digital apa ni, SDGs, and also BIM analytics also they are putting inside as part of the whole ecosystem of development with the big data. But I guess it's quite still far from our country to move forward to that level.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't think in a way yang it's not that we can't. Yeah, definitely we can. It's just that a lot of time when things actually move ahead, when the top machinery take it as a national agenda, then a lot of things can actually move. But right now, what's happened is a lot of these initiatives are done at operating level. Dia bukan macam top down. It's very operating level, like when people are doing this work, and then why actually a lot of changes in one-stop center was one-stop center procedures and agency procedures was done. It was only since 2012 a lot of changes has been put in place because of the ease of doing business ranking, right? So that's how the changes have come in. So it's not really like top down. Dia banyak on working level punya operating level officers or civil servants that has started thinking about it and do something. Tapi sekarang, why I said yang the need for the thing to be a national agenda is we are not talking about one ministry. Kalau kita tengok dekat sini, local authority is Suruhanjaya Tenaga. Sorry, the kementerian I tak berapa ingat. Local authority is local government and dotted line kepada KPKT and another dotted line kepada state. Indah Water is a SPAN, which is under the Ministry of KATS. I guess, or I got it right or not, I'm not sure. CASA, yeah, under CASA. So there are multiple ministries we're talking here, It's not just one single ministry. So when we want different ministries to come together for this particular agenda, kita kena tunjuk the value. What is the value of like 4 or 5 ministers want to come and sit and have this top council to push this? What is the value? So for me, I go back to the value is beyond making things fast, beyond productivity. That is for the operations of the industry. but this information, how it can be used in terms of the analytics.
Yep. Okay, apa ni Miss Punita? I think there's can you move to your slide yang ada your email tu? I think that's about it for today. I think you already answered a lot of questions relating to this. But for the participant, if you have more questions for Miss Punita, you can either WhatsApp her or email her or message her on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, Miss Punita, for accepting our call for us inviting you to give a talk. Definitely your sharing of the system, your analysis of how the online system is done is very useful for us PSP or qualified person in understanding the whole ecosystem of the submission process. So for the participant, thank you very much for being together with us. We hope you will continue with us. Look out for our next session, probably next week, next Monday, which we will post later. And thank you very much. And please stay safe, everyone, and stay home. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you, Rida.
Thank you, Rita.